Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm going to do something a little bit different today in that I'm really going to just be talking. And I wanted to share some ideas about how to make time for your art because I think this is something that often can be a struggle. And although we have all these good intentions, sometimes it just goes out of the window. And then we feel a bit disappointed in ourselves. And because art is a very mindful activity, it's really good for us. It's really good for our, mental well-being. And if you know that it's something that you enjoy or that you want to get into a little bit more, then I thought I would come up with a few ideas about how you might make some time or more time for your art. So, if maybe it's something that's new for you, I think number one might be to find yourself a class. Find a little class that you can go to, and that way you'll meet other like-minded people. And because you will have paid for the class, you're more likely to go. Therefore, you will be making time for it in your everyday life. So that will be my suggestion number one. If you've tried lots of other things and nothing seems to be working, if you sign yourself up to a class uh, and you've paid for it, you're less likely to waste your money and get along to that class, which could bring about new friendships and even more opportunities to do your art. So that's going to be my number one suggestion as to why joining a class might be a really good option, depending on where you are in your artistic journey. If, on the other hand, you are wanting to introduce some art as like a daily thing, some daily practice. You really miss it when you don't do it, and you get cross with yourself or frustrated. Then let's think about how you might go about that. So adding in some art every day. And one of the ways I think is to have some kind of a space. Now, when I talk about some kind of a space, yes, I'm quite lucky. I have got a space here, but in actual fact, it's just this one side, if you like, and where I'm sat is my computer. So I do have to keep changing things up for when I have clients come to see me, which is where's my hand? The other side of the room there where the two chairs are. That's where I do my psychotherapy. So this room has a dual purpose. Maybe you have a room that could have a dual purpose to it. Maybe you could just put a small desk, a little table, and that would be, your little space to do some art, somewhere where you haven't got to keep putting it away too much. That's why this side is always quite messy because I don't always put everything away that I've been using. If even finding a small corner and a little table feels like that's just not going to work, then my next suggestion, so suggestion number three, if you like, is to just buy a tray, just a standard tray, and put your materials on the tray. And you could swap them up every week. You could just choose some particular materials that you want to use just for a week. Uh, that way, everything will be to hand, and you'll be able to, sit somewhere with that tray and get on and do some painting. You don't even necessarily, need huge pots of water. You can get away with much smaller pots of water, and maybe a little sponge in a tin to wipe your brushes off with. So there's lots of videos out there about how to minimize the kind of kits that people take out and about with them. You could use one of those, put it on a tray, and that way hopefully it's going to be more accessible for you. Now, I think one of the misconceptions is that we feel that we need lots of time to do our art. So I'm going to say, why not just make it 15 minutes? Just 15 minutes. Some of you will know from my previous videos, I can reach across and get this book. At the moment, I've been doing the 15-minute art watercolor by who's it by? Jola Sopek. And so sometimes just 15 minutes, there's mine, to do something really simple is enough. And we feel that at least I've done something to keep my art practice going. So think about it in little 15-minute chunks instead of, saying I need an hour, I need 3/4 of an hour, or whatever it is. 15 minutes is usually doable somewhere for most people. Yeah, or even 10 minutes in actual fact could still be useful with a little line and wash drawing, or just sketching something out with a pen. I think sometimes we feel that it's not worthwhile unless we're doing a big painting, but in actual fact, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just about getting some art in to our day and getting some practice in. So yeah, pick 15 minutes somewhere. Now, if you're someone that likes schedules, you could timetable that in. Otherwise, you could add it on to part of your daily routine somewhere. So it's the thing that you do before you have your breakfast, or it's the thing that you do just before you go to bed. And it still can be just those 10-15 minutes. So timetable it, schedule it in somewhere, make it part of a routine is what I'm going to say. I think that is something that is really important. And one of the other things I think is sometimes it's about choice. Do I really need to do this household chore? Could that wait? Would I rather be doing 15 minutes of my artwork? Do I really need to dust every single day? Maybe think about some of the choices that you're making and whether they've just become habits that maybe could be tweaked and changed and altered so that you can get your artwork in more often. I think also, there are lots of online courses that make them really accessible. So if you're picking an online course, then you can do that in much smaller chunks. You don't have to do everything all at once. My caveat for that would be do just one course at a time. Otherwise, you feel like you're never completing anything. So stick to one course at a time. There's lots of them out there on Skillshare and Domestika and what's the other one? Udemy and various other platforms. But mostly they are very much broken down into small little 20-minute or so chunks, sometimes a half an hour. That can be doing a little course like that is already put into chunks of time, I suppose, can be quite useful. it means that we can still see progress, but we're not having to use up lots of our time each day to enjoy our art. So yeah, one course at a time. And because most of those courses are broken down into small chunks, we're more likely to it's more likely to be manageable and for us to fit it in. One of the other things that I think is important to recognize is that it's not always about doing a painting. No, you know, sometimes it can be much more fun to just swatch out some paints or come up with a small limited color palette that you decide that you like. Uh, yeah, just playing with the colors and you know, swatching out pleasing palettes that you're gonna, you know, use later on. Oh yeah, I remember this would work really well with this autumn leaves painting. Yeah. We can still get a lot from just playing with our materials rather than doing an actual painting. So if you are not good at maybe doing your painting in small chunks, which would be another suggestion, we don't have to do our painting all in one go. Then yeah, doing you know, little palettes and swatching might seem more doable. But quite often you will have seen I do an undercoat, as I call it, or an underpainting. That then has to dry before I can do anything else on top of it with either more paint or other mixed media materials. So, you know, I can break my painting up into smaller chunks. I don't have to complete it all in one day. And I think that is something that is also worth bearing in mind. Um, it doesn't always necessarily even have to be our art materials either. We could be, you know, reading a book, reading an art book, or flipping through a book for inspiration and maybe putting a few sticky notes in. This would be really good. This would inspire me to, you know, do something similar. Or "Oh, I really love this painting. I don't like the topic, but the colors are pulling me towards them." Um, so yeah, going through some of your art books, if you are not able to get art materials out for whatever reason, we can use those art books to still keep our art practice going. So I think that's another thing to remember. Uh, I know sometimes we can all get hooked into watching um, or scrolling on our phones or going from one video to the next, to the next, to the next on our computers or watching them on our TVs. Yet again, I think, you know, that's where we have to make choices. How much of that do I want to do as opposed to getting on with my own art practice? So maybe it's about limiting some of that and you know, some of the scrolling that we do on some of these social media sites. We can easily lose half an hour or more. Well, you could have done a lovely painting in half an hour. There are even many art books out there that are labeled up as 30-minute watercolors or 30 minutes, you know, acrylic paintings. Yeah, so you know, perhaps although we feel like we haven't got time, if we were to scrutinize how we're using our time a little bit more and make choices, which sometimes means compromises, uh, then you know, hopefully we can get that balance right so that we are including the art practice that we really want to include. I hope that there's been some suggestions in there and that just me talking has not been too boring for you all. I just felt that it's something that, especially when I talk to my clients and I say, well, what do you do? What leisure activities? It might not be painting. It could be, oh, well, I used to really do a lot of knitting or crochet or embroidery or whatever it might be. Or, oh, yeah, I used to do a little bit of wood turning, or I liked fiddling around mending, whatever it was. Um, the things that people used to do, and they go, I don't have time for that anymore. Well, I guess in a way, this is where it's our responsibility to look after ourselves and decide that we are going to make that time somewhere and decide on what compromises we might need to make, and yeah, be the owner of our choices, the owner of how we are spending our time. So just a few thoughts there, especially as we're coming up, I mean, I know we're not quite into December yet, but because we are coming up to, getting closer to 2025, and this is when a lot of us start thinking about what changes do I want to make? What do I want next year to look like? Usually we're hoping that we're going to make changes for the better. So yeah, hopefully this will get you thinking well before January the 1st in 2025, and has given you some options and thoughts on that topic. So thank you so much for listening to me. I'm still going to be doing all my usual videos. This is more of a one-off than anything else, but do stay safe, stay healthy, stay calm until I can see you next time. All right, bye-bye for now.